Hi guys, this is Cindy from Part-Time Permies, and today we are doing two things at once. We are prepping the winter coops and we are moving the chicken compost to the garden. If you have the chance to design your own system, whether you're working with the chickens in the garden and incorporating those together in a permaculture fashion, I'd have these coops in the middle of my garden area, with maybe trying to incorporate alternating runs and garden into my scheme of things. So we haven't really done anything moving these except moving the chickens, which in the summer they live in chicken tractors, so they get to move through the yard, through the garden as well in the early spring and late fall. This run has had the beddings from not last winter's coop material, but the winter before, sitting in it all year. It's breaking down. Basically, I'm taking the top layer off of that and moving it into the garden to fertilize the garden. And what I'll do is take the material that's in the coop behind me and move it into the run so they have a little fresher material in the run. We could keep putting layers down through the winter in the run and in the coop. We'll put some fresh bedding in the coop so they start fresh in there. But the stuff out in the run will break down over the next year for the next season's garden. This is basically a 3-year process of turning chicken manure into fertilizer. So I'll show you what we're doing here on the first step. Okay, the first step will be to clear out this run, which is the winter run of all this growing volunteer tomatoes and other such, weeds and such. A lot of them are nightshades, so I don't want the chickens eating them when I put them back in here. So we're going to get rid of those, put them in the compost. I'm going to take the top layer of all this, move it into the wagon, and dump the wagon out into the garden. So I got almost all the way through my job of cleaning out that run, and I'm pulling this wagon back on this pulley, basically attachment to the axle. The nut that was attaching it just pulled through this. So these wheels are supposed to be controlled by the handle, but are no longer controlled until we get that back through that hole. So, another challenge. Let's see if we could get this thing detached and see if we could get it put back together, maybe with a washer in there. I do have some grease that I could put on there to help prevent some more rusting that's been happening on this. Doesn't look like they put washers on here at all, which seems silly to me, but we'll get it put together, see what we could do. Okay, that wasn't what was wrong with it. I just found this on the ground, and it seems to be missing a pin. Maybe the pin broke off of it, but maybe I could find myself a new pin or rig something up. So this, I believe, goes straight through that and connects up to here, because that little bolt did not actually seem to connect to anything or reach the hole. So I think we need to go through here up to here and then find something else to pin everything up there, up at the top. That might work. So that is actually a misshapen hook for the T-post hook. I just threaded that wire through it and I think it'll hold. I think it will. So it basically got threaded from the bottom up and then has a place for a linchpin to slip through up top. And I don't have one, so I used a clip for the welded wire T-post fence. And I think we rigged it up. Should be usable now. Let's test it out. Okay, we got that done. Seems to work, so back on the job. Let's finish this thing up, at least stage 1 of this clean out. Okay guys, so after I don't even know how many wagonfuls of compost, we moved all that compost from the chicken run, that top layer, just 1 shovel deep, and brought it out here to the garden, to an area that I have not actually previously fertilized. I might still leaf mulch this area later once the leaves turn and we gather them, but I'll show you how much ground it covered. So I started on this side because we have right about here and right about there we have some rhubarb plants that we planted this spring, and they've been just barely hanging in there. So I'm hoping to give them some fertilized food for next year. And then back in here, show you a little closer, we have a transplanted wild blueberry bush. This is part of it up here. And again, we want to make sure that that gets well fertilized. I might give that some pine needles as well as a mulch on top. This is actually kind of a combination of mulch and fertilizer because the wood chips that's my bedding for the chickens isn't completely broken down yet. So it's still somewhat mulch, and I put it on here a couple inches thick. Not horribly thick, but a bit. And of course I had chopped and dropped a bunch of the weeds down in this area as well. So they're now buried. But we covered this entire area with that 1 run, material from that 1 run. I do have a second run I gotta do. Didn't quite get into the tomatoes and asparagus bed, but that's fairly fertile from having a chicken run there last year. But the rain is starting to come down here. It took me quite a bit of time to get this down. So a little more than 10 minutes a day today. But I'd say Rose, I did more than 10 minutes a day garden challenge. Check Rose's channel out for that challenge. But I missed a couple days, so it's probably make up for that. I will see you next time. It's raining. See you later. Bye.